Hey guys and girls, how's it going? Hope you guys are having a great week. So we are back today with another episode of Normandy Newsfeed, your one-stop shop for all things gaming and geek culture related. We're back today with episode 5. May, right? We're in May. We're already in May.
We are.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy. So we're going to kick off today's podcast with the first section, which is one of my favorites, which is What's New?
How you holding up, Skipper?
What is new? What is new?
Right, so I'll kick us off, obviously, with this one today to talk about what I've been playing. I have been playing multiple games, to be fair, in May. May's been a bit of an insane month, really, in terms of, like, juggling multiple games. But I will talk about one game I did beat this month and finally completed, and I will be reviewing for you all, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, once I've written a script and everything, and that is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And I've been playing it all May. I basically burnt through it. Dante's been watching me play it and watching me stress at certain points of it too. The combat is fun, but quite challenging. It's definitely got elements of like Soulsborne in terms of its combat. The focus is really on parrying and mixing your force abilities. So the combat can be quite challenging. Some of the boss fights especially were quite hard, but I enjoyed them. They were good. I would say that Survivor is a good sequel. It continues on the story after Fallen Order. It's set 5 years after the events of Fallen Order, which is why I recommend that you do play Fallen Order first, because you will be very lost. They decided to up the ante in most every way, as they tend to do with a sequel. Make it bigger, make it better, right? That tends to be the goal of most developers. In some ways it succeeds, in other ways it doesn't. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I will talk about that in my review, but things I really enjoyed. The story is great. I really, really enjoyed the story. I thought they did a great job with the story, a great job with the characters. Even the NPCs and side characters are really interesting. The world, the attention to detail, even some of the Easter eggs and things and references. If you are a Star Wars fan, you will get them, you will see them. And it's even more special because of that, which is great. I liked what they did with Cal's character, and the way they developed his character as the story progresses. I'm not going to say anymore. I enjoyed the combat. The combat is still really fun. They actually introduced new saber stances. So there are 5 different stances. Couple of them, 2 of them are very new, which is the cross guard, which is basically like Kylo Ren's saber. So it's big, long, heavy attacks. Great for defense, but really slow wind up. And they also introduced a very non-Jedi kind of weapon, which I kind of liked, which was the lightsaber and a pistol.
Blaster.
Yeah. So you actually do a bit of both. So it's good for ranged attacks. It's a very kind of Han Solo meets Jedi, right? Kind of, which actually works because obviously this time
So is the blaster built in as part of the hilt?
It's separate. So it's separate. So you hold basically both at the same time, and the blaster can be used to shoot enemies from the sky, to attack enemies ranged. So it's a very fast, very rapid.
Right.
Each of the 5 like stances are a lot of fun, really enjoyable. But there were some design choices that I felt were a bit weird. So like you have 5 stances, but you can only equip 2 at any time, and you spend points to level up each of these stances. So what you ended up doing, because you didn't want to waste your level up points, is you'd really sort of choose 2 and kind of mained 2. Does that make sense? And you could attack and take on most enemies with any stance. I wanted a little bit more from the combat. I felt that they played it a little bit too safe. I would have liked for them to have had enemies which would have been better suited to particular stances. So certain enemies, for example, maybe that might have really high armor or defense, you might use your crossguard stance, right? Flying enemies, you might use your pistol and your lightsaber. Large groups of enemies, you might use your dual wield or your long saber, like Darth Maul, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would have preferred that. I felt that would have maybe taken the combat to the next step. For me, but I still enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's a game you can beat in about 28 hours, give or take. I put into it, but I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was a good game. It was a good sequel, and there are definitely room to improve, and I definitely have suggestions for that, and I will put that in my review. And there is going to be a third game. I think it's going to be a trilogy. So my hope is that they will take this feedback on board,
because everything's a trilogy these days.
Yes. So it's very much going to be a trilogy. But I am intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see where it's going to go, especially with the way it finishes. So it's a story that's interested me, and I'm looking forward to seeing the finale of Cal's story, which ain't going to end happily because, we all know going into A New Hope, don't we? So it'll be interesting to see where it goes and how it ends. But yes, that's what I've been playing in May and enjoying. Watch your space because the review will be dropping in a few weeks. Dante, what about you?
Various, but I'll just go on to saying Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp.
Oh, yeah.
Rinse
Long
that.
waited for that.
A lot, yeah. Well, how long did it take? It was over a year delay, wasn't it?
Oh, about 2. I'd say
pretty much 2, yeah.
Almost 2.5 since we heard about it. So
yeah, exactly. I'd been waiting for that for ages. When that reveal trailer popped up and we could just hear the capturing sound effect, I was like, I know what that is.
you were not alone.
Yeah. You were so excited. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was hyped. And WayForward have done a very good job at like rebooting it, and giving it a facelift, giving it all the shiny graphics, throw in the odd bit of voice acting. Like, it would be nice doing all the lines, but at least it's got some.
Yeah.
And yeah, updated music, updated everything. A bit of slightly restrictive online play, but at least there's the option to play with some friends.
Yeah, it's a weird choice, is that? Like, that seems like such a missed opportunity not to have online. Can you imagine the tournaments and the ranking and the competitive play that could happen with a because it's quite a passionate community, right? Advance Wars.
Yeah.
So
there's a play by browser website called like Advance Wars by Web, pretty much, kind of thing. And that's got full-on tier lists, tournament brackets, everything. It's got like all the scoreboards, and so I think a lot of us were expecting to see that, but still, at least we got that, and a lot of local play options as well. If anyone's not 100% sure what Advance Wars even is, though, I made a video on Kate's channel.
It's a very good video. I will put the link in the description. Nice plug. Nice segue there, Dante. Yes, it's a very good video. You spent a long time putting that together.
Despite it being only like 5 minutes, but yeah.
It's very good, though. It gets all the key points across, which is great.
Yeah. And some silliness, because you know me. So, yeah, pretty much chess with tanks, all great.
Chess with tanks, that's a great way to describe Advance Wars.
I thought you said Jess with tanks then. I was like, it's her only redeeming feature.
You are also true.
There is a commanding officer called Jess, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but brilliant stuff. I'll still be trying to, S rank more maps.
It's a massive game as well. Like you complete like the first and second campaign, and it was easily over 100 hours over to do both campaigns and do everything, and then that's not even playing it through again on the hard mode, which I can't even imagine, because I watched you play some of those matches.
Yeah. It's been 100 hours, thought it was only like 50 or something.
Can you imagine trying to get S rank on hard mode for all of the maps?
Yeah.
And then you've got the war room, which,
because I can see me at some point I will want to do the advanced campaigns and try and update my dog tag, get all the golds on that. So
I, on the other hand, will just be happy for having all the commanding officers unlocked.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Like, they do a good job, because I don't know anything about Advance Wars, and obviously I've been watching you play it. But the COs are great, like, and the banter and
they're fun.
It's just great. It's really, really good. So I've just been enjoying watching you play and getting a sneak insight into Dante's tactics.
Yes.
It's all about the APCs. That's all I'm going to say.
Use the AI.
Exactly.
With the AI, with people, it's
with
a
people.
different matter.
With people, they're not going to fall for that rubbish. Like, I see what you're doing there. I'm not falling for it. Like, at all. We'll have to see if we can organise and arrange at some point for you guys to do a versus match on a stream and see if we can get both of your webcams working, see if we can figure that out, because that would be awesome and really entertaining to watch. So maybe we can make it happen or organise it at some point, and you can showcase that game and show it off a little bit.
We'll have to suss something.
I've enjoyed watching you play it, and I'm not an Advance Wars player, but it's been entertaining to sit and watch you play. So we already know what we're going to talk about next. But Fish, what have you been playing in May? A little not very well known game that's just come out recently, really small.
What could have come out this month that would have taken up? Oh yeah, it was Zelda not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes,
Breath of the Wild
Part 2. Well, controversial.
Yes, absolutely loving it. What can I say other than they've taken Breath of the Wild and done even more with it? They've made nice quality of life changes. The Sky World is far lacking compared to what I was anticipating. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because my concern with the Sky World would be that there'd just be too much nonsense up there. Whereas actually, I feel from what I've encountered so far, there's just the right amount. What has really caught me surprised, and I won't go more into it other than there's not just the Sky World, there is the Underworld. So you've got 3 whole tiers. I absolutely love the fact that you've got those 3 tiers. It makes the map so much bigger, despite the fact that the vast part of the overworld is more or less the map from the first game. I'm really surprised how little I remember of that map. So it does feel like I'm visiting it anew, with the odd occasion where I see something go, oh, so that's what that is. I recognize that now. But it's not immediately back to form, which really I find thoroughly enjoyable. And yeah, I'd say that the weapon degradation, I feel, is worse.
Do you think that's why they've introduced fuse? Because the idea is like, if
absolutely
to get past that, you can just fuse to anything. Yeah,
absolutely. But I also find it really frustrating that I've got to keep doing that, and just so many of my weapons just feel pointless. However, that is covered as part of the story, so again, no spoilers. There's a reason for it, and I get the reason for it. I'm also liking the fuse thing, where again, you can take certain fruits and items and stick them to an arrow and use them as part of the arrow. That only becomes a problem when you've got an inventory full of hundreds of items, and it's like, no, I need this one specific item.
And you're trying to switch between. That's true. Yeah, we've been. Dante's had the same problem.
There is a sort option
for
what use the most use. But even then, it's like, but now I kind of want to use this.
If it's something new that you've thought of, then certainly the creativity part of it is there. That is lovely. There's several challenges where obviously the big thing now is almost like the Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts thing of just cobbling together your own vehicles with whatever's laying around the world. And several of the challenges in the shrines require you to build things or bridges or whatever to get through it. And there's been several times I think, I've solved that shrine. I'm not sure if that's how I was meant to solve it, but screw it, it worked. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I seem to have done it, so I'll take that win. But again, I feel that's the nice ingenuity of it, that there is more than one way to solve it because of the way it is.
I think in that way it elevates itself above Breath of the Wild in that way, simply because of the freedom that you can approach different situations, whether they're combat situations, puzzle solving situations, and you'd be like, well, this is how, because obviously I've been watching Dante play it, and Dante will be like, oh, he'll do it in a certain way. I go, oh, you could have also done that or done that or done that. So it's quite interesting, I think, and I think it's quite ballsy as well, like of Nintendo to do that, because they have literally said, have at. You can interact with most everything in the world. You can fuse things, you can craft things, go out and explore and complete this game in the way that you want to do so. And I think that opens up the game to so much testing and experimentation that it could just break the game. Like and I'm sure people have found ways to break the game, and I think already I saw somewhere news that somebody had done a speed run in like 94 minutes. 94 minutes, yeah. I saw that. I want to watch that once we've completed the actual game, because obviously, you know, you skip a lot obviously to do that. But for me, just the abilities are amazing. Like they're so good. I would say
I lack some of the old abilities, like the bombs.
But you can attach bombs to like your arrows and
but limited.
You're limited. Yeah, that's true.
It was the unlimited bombs in the previous one was the thing I really liked.
But broken, unlimited bombs.
Yeah, but you need them quite frequently. So, but because we could go on forever and a day about it. Yeah. All I will say is it's an absolutely lovely game. I suspect if you didn't like Breath of the Wild, then you won't like this for the same reasons.
Yeah.
If you like Breath of the Wild, they've just improved it and polished it and made it even nicer. If you didn't like Breath of the Wild, it was probably because you didn't like the fact that it was so open world. And on that same token, I will very much state that I think after this game, I'd like the open world phase in the gaming industry to pack it in.
Yeah,
I'm getting open world game fatigue.
Same. I had the same thing with Survivor. I got like, because there's a lot of open world stuff and side content and exploration. It's very Metroidvania with certain areas blocked off, and then you have to go back and explore. But I got to like 70% of the open world, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm just here for the story and the experience.
Even then, I would still think that, again, there's the difference between a Metroidvania and an open world game. And that simply being that a Metroidvania style game is there's still a fixed map, there's still a rule, and you've got to go around it.
Yeah.
And there's only, in Metroidvania style, there's only certain paths you can go down once you've got a specific item, which you unlock through the story. Whereas this gives you pretty much all the tools you need right off the bat, minus one or two, and then goes, have at. So I would say, that is a key difference.
So you'd like the next Zelda game to be more like linear? Like more focused, maybe?
More like a specific go here, do this, go here, do this, go here, do this. Much like, again, the older stuff, even if you meet the halfway point and you do it, again, like another Majora's Mask, where, yes, there's some freedom because you're replaying the same 3 days again and again and again, and you're learning a schedule. But like that Ocarina of Time, first you need the grass temple, then the fire temple, then the water temple, and so on and so forth. I'd like a bit more structure again to the story rather than just aimlessly wandering. I love it very but I'm getting tired.
Yes, and it does very much borrow the same kind of sort of story beats or structure. Like, you've got your tutorial area, right, which is the same as Breath of the Wild, right? And then you've got and there are 4 points on the map now that you will have to go to at some point. So it's very much, you can see that kind of, So I'm hoping that the story, that it'll go new places, that it'll change things up and not just use the same kind of, structure as Breath of the Wild. But we've played how many hours? 30 hours, Dante? 30 hours, give or take. So we've still got a big amount of game ahead of us. It's a very beautiful game. Looking forward to playing more for sure. Very good. So we've all been very busy in May playing absolutely massive games. Feasting on the treats, and there are more ahead. So let's move on to the second part of our podcast today, which is our main feature.
Spit it out, or are you trying to build suspense?
It's the main feature.
So, in today's main feature, we are going to talk about all things Xbox and Microsoft. And is Xbox in trouble? Okay. Suffice it to say, Xbox and Microsoft have not had a very good month for many reasons. I'm sure Phil Spencer could do with a holiday and away somewhere nice and warm with many drinks and cocktails. So let's go through obviously what happened in terms of Microsoft in May, and we'll talk through these points as we go along and our general views on it. And we are going to talk about the future of Xbox and their game plan and everything and what we think about that. So kicking us off, obviously, right at the end of April, Eurogamer released an article and some of the reveals were not glowing or not promising, should we say, basically indicating that their gaming revenue had fell by 4% and their actual hardware revenue had declined by 30%, which is a massive drop in hardware sales. Game Pass apparently still seems to be going strong, though. That's keeping them afloat from the looks of it. And as of January 2022, Xbox confirmed that they have 25 million subscribers on Game Pass globally, which is huge. And it's still growing, apparently. It is actually seeing growth, apparently. They, I think, confirmed that they made $1 billion in revenue just from Game Pass in the last quarter. So, in some ways bad, in some ways good. If you're a console owner, things are not looking good. If we compare that, obviously, to Nintendo and obviously Sony in terms of sales, I think Nintendo, obviously the Switch has been out longer. It's been out 7 years so far. It is the biggest selling console to date. I think that Nintendo have confirmed they've sold 122 million Switches in sales since it came out. PlayStation 5s, Sony's confirmed they've sold 38.5 million PS5 consoles in the last, and it'll be 3 years as of November. And Xbox confirmed they've sold 18.5 million, which puts them on par with how they performed in the PS4 Xbox One era, which was always on a sort of 2-to-1 ratio. So for every 2 PlayStation 4s, 1 Xbox One console would be sold. So it seems to put them on par with what they were in the last generation. So not really a huge uptake in terms of sales. But obviously Game Pass subscription is still going strong. Any thoughts on that?
I'd just say that, again, it seems like a no-brainer. If you've got an Xbox, you'll get Game Pass. But again, it depends how they're defining that, because if you've got a PC, you'll get a Game Pass.
Yep.
And I think this is what is really hurting their bottom line. Xbox, from its very inception, was targeting gamers who were originally the PC crowd. You went, hey, you've got a PC, why not play games on a console that might as well be a PC? Which was the whole selling point of the original Xbox. Just, however, as time has passed and we've come further and further down the line, we've now got to the point where, for the cost of the most recent model of Xbox console, unless you're getting the really watered down version, you can still get a reasonable gaming PC for the exact same price, which has fewer strings attached to it. And I think this is really the crux of their issue. Their own market now is very much split between console or PC gaming.
Yep.
And it's not was an exclusive where, hey, you've got all the PlayStation games that are exclusive to PlayStation on their console, all the Nintendo games are exclusive to their console. With Xbox, you've got your hard-hitting things of, well, you can play them on both PC and Xbox. So the attitude is, well, I could play it on an Xbox, but why would I when I can play it on a PC?
Yeah, if you have a PC. And then if you do get a PC, you've got Steam and you've got Epic. And
that's hurting their own bottom line at the end of the day. I think the market of people who they are aiming the Xbox at, just going down the mindset now of, why would I buy the console when I could just put that money towards a good gaming PC? End of discussion. That is what's damaging their console sales, in my opinion.
Yeah, very much so. Whether or not they're watering down by obviously pushing, and I mean, I owned an Xbox One last generation. I bought it because I was like, I have to cover content. I'm going to play exclusive titles, obviously for Xbox One and blah blah blah. I played Gears 5 and different games and streamed it, but it is just collecting dust. I don't remember the last time I booted my Xbox One. I have no intention of getting an Xbox. I can get on PC. Exactly. And that is my mentality. I will just pay for the PC Xbox Game Pass, and I can still access the games I want to play on there. And I tend to play Xbox Game Pass games on my PC because I have a decent enough PC for it. It makes no sense for me to get an Xbox.
And to put it in the core term of, we were saying, the Xbox One, which was the bridging the gap between the current Xbox and the previous Xbox One and the 360.
Yeah.
I had a 360. I had loads for my 360. I loved the 360. But then I got a gaming PC, and then the Xbox One came out, and I was like, it's cool, but there's nothing really on it that means I have to buy it. I can just get that on PC if I want to. And now we've got a whole new generation, which realistically, after 2.5, 3 years since it came out, still doesn't have...
3 years in November it'll be. 3 years
still
in November.
Doesn't really have any exclusives for this console generation that has made me even question, should I buy it because I can only get it on that Xbox? It's like, well, no, I can't, so why bother? Absolutely, why bother? Even, hell, I bought a PlayStation 5. Yes, I have subsequently since sold it, but I bought a PlayStation 5 because there were exclusives on it that I could only play on the PlayStation 5. And that is a selling point of a console. It will always be Nintendo's biggest feather in their hat, purely on the basis of Nintendo games. Whether you like the console or not, Nintendo games absolutely stand out.
Apart from obviously talking about that side of things too, there was other news obviously in terms of Microsoft, and Xbox specifically this month. The big one obviously, which is UK based. We're great at messing things up, aren't we? Always can trust the UK to get in the way. And obviously it was, as you guys know, one of the biggest deals and acquisitions which Microsoft are trying to put through is obviously Activision Blizzard, which is worth something stupid like $68.9 billion or something stupid. And basically the CMA, with the UK CMA, have blocked that acquisition. And the reason for them blocking it is kind of interesting because it wasn't what Sony have been arguing, which is the whole time, which was that, if Xbox get Activision Blizzard, then they're going to gain access, they'll get Call of Duty and then they'll make it exclusive, or they'll do these secret underhanded kind of tactics, which means that Sony, players and won't get access to it and blah, 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 blah. And people, everyone will be like, it's not about Call of Duty. And it's kind of interesting because the CMA's ruling is not Call of Duty. That's not important, right? What they've said is the reason that they've blocked it is to protect innovation and choice in cloud gaming. So we know obviously Microsoft are very much pushing part of their game plan, which is obviously play games anywhere, any way that you want to, whether that's on the Xbox console, whether that's on PC, whether that's on your phone or tablet through cloud gaming. And that is a big push for them. And they obviously own quite a large part of the structure of that. I think they own Azure, which is used in most cloud gaming platforms. I think it was used in Google Stadia. And I think Google are also trying to fight this acquisition because the concern is obviously that this would stifle innovation and that Microsoft would have like a monopoly on cloud gaming. And obviously that's not good for the industry if other companies want to go into that area, and innovation is good. Competition is good. You know what I mean? Generally speaking. I was quite surprised by the decision because obviously most other regulators have it's gone through, right? For me personally, I don't give a shit about the acquisition personally. I don't like the idea of Microsoft monopolizing everything. I don't like the idea of big publishers buying up like pockets of the industry, and it's like, you know, the PlayStation team and the Microsoft team and everybody trying to buy everybody up to have a monopoly. I'm not a big fan of that. But honestly speaking, I have never thought Bethesda or Activision Blizzard are the company that they used to be. Their reputation for me has been significantly damaged over the last 10 years. Bethesda has had a whole plethora of awful releases, absolutely awful, dodgy microtransactions and policies that you know, to nickel and
less said
dime
about their
their
internal
players.
working environment.
Right, especially Activision Blizzard and all of the abuse and sexism and discrimination and bullying, you know, and they're not the only ones guilty of that. Of course, Ubisoft have a lot to answer for in that regard as well. But they're not the powerhouses that they used to be. And yeah, they have big IPs like Diablo and World of Warcraft and Call of Duty and things like that. But for me as a gamer, I wasn't like, okay, whatever, you know, I don't really respect those publishers, those developers as much. But yeah, I don't know how I feel on this. I'm really, it's not going to have a huge impact on me, but I don't like the idea of them monopolizing things. So I don't know.
Simply, for me, it doesn't bother me in the sense, I get the point because it does stifle innovation.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it'll stifle innovation.
And Microsoft have done that in everything when it comes to Windows and operating systems and everything. They've always been like that.
To use a metaphor, Microsoft are throwing their money around buying cars left, right, and centre, and then once they've got that car, they're leaving it in a garage and they're not driving it, which is effectively what they're doing with all these developers. Hey, look, we've got Blizzard Activision. Or if they are driving it, they're basically going for a drive around the block and they're not doing anything else. It's like, hey, we've made a game that's really not that good, and frankly, it doesn't go anywhere, and it's not very interesting.
They've driven the car into a tree then.
True.
Yeah, basically. They've not seen any new roads. They've not gone anywhere exciting. They've literally bought a developer to churn something out to tick a box. And it is stifling innovation, absolutely 100%. And effectively, I don't buy the UK argument about it will hurt cloud gaming, because
do you
realistically,
think there's a market there for it at the moment? Do you think enough people
I think in the same way cloud gaming will exist as long as developers want to make things for it. I again personally am not a fan of cloud gaming. If I'm paying for a game, I want it to be something I actually physically own and can hold. I think, again, the constant idea, and this is a whole other topic we could go on forever, about the difference between physical and digital ownership. You know, you buy a digital copy of a game, then effectively, as we saw with Scott Pilgrim,
with Google Stadia.
Google Stadia took the high road and actually went,
gave them all
guys,
refunds,
we really messed up. Anything you've spent, have your money back.
Which was kind of incredible. You've got to give him, you know, some props for that.
I can't imagine a single company of the rest of gaming history ever doing that again. I think that you'll never see that again.
I think that's where maybe Game Pass will come into it, because obviously at the moment with Game Pass it is a subscription service, you know, that's the appeal of it, and I think that's where cloud gaming is going to go with it. It's going to become like the Netflix of gaming,
and I think this is something that Xbox themselves need to figure out what they're going to do. Are they going to support Game Pass and this idea of you can play whatever you want on whatever you want whenever you want?
It seems that way.
And get rid of the Xbox themselves, get rid of the console, and turn Game Pass into a service like Netflix, where you have Game Pass on a PlayStation, on a Nintendo, on a PC, and just get rid of the console.
That's an interesting idea.
Because if
there are rumors.
That's what they want to do,
yeah.
If that's the attitude that they're doing, as you say, the biggest thing that Xbox have at the moment, their biggest failure is the fact that they are not selling their consoles.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling Game Pass, but they're not selling the consoles. And that for me, idea goes they go the way of Sega. They stop making consoles. They just make games.
Yeah, they focus on software, which is what Microsoft's always, where its strength has always been. It's been software and software development. I think it's interesting as well because there are rumors. Obviously the Steam Deck obviously is doing incredibly well. It's a very good piece of kit. I have one myself. It's really good. It's great to be able to play my PC games portably. It's fantastic. I wish the battery life was a little bit better, to be fair. But the rumor is that Xbox are maybe, rather than, because obviously now everybody's, because of Nintendo and how well they have done with their handheld, with the Nintendo Switch and it being capable of doing both, a lot of the rumor is that a lot of the other big names are going to try and get into that market, right? The rumor obviously with PlayStation that they're going to be releasing their own handheld device which allows you to remote play your PlayStation 5 games, although you have to stay in your house, which just seems incredibly short-sighted for me.
So they're re-releasing the PSP again then, yeah?
Yeah, but that didn't go great. And then obviously...
At least that was portable.
Yeah,
and
they obviously haven't learned. And then obviously...
Engage all over again.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumor as to what Xbox is going to do. And I don't think they're going to go down hardware because that's not where their strengths lie. Why would they waste the money and resources into creating another piece of hardware that's probably not going to sell? I think what they're going to try and do is do some kind of deal, because you can turn the Steam Deck basically, for all intents and purposes, is a mini PC. It can run on Windows, so the structure is there, and I think what they will maybe do is do some kind of deal where you can actually have Game Pass on the Steam Deck. And I think if they are able to do that and make that happen, that's huge.
Counterpoint to that is purely, I think Steam wouldn't accept it because it'd hurt Steam's bottom line of actually selling games.
Maybe
Steam doesn't need Game Pass. Steam has a huge catalog.
Maybe, although the way I look at Game Pass is I look at it as a way to try out games, and then if there is a game that I'm playing because obviously games rotate and games leave Steam Pass all the time, and if there is a game that I play that I absolutely love, I will buy that game, and I will tend to buy it on Steam rather than Xbox Game Pass because I prefer the support on Steam. I prefer
the multiplayer on Steam works better than it does.
Exactly. So yeah, I see what you're saying, but I also think it could also help with sales as well, because people might go, do you know what? Especially with we could go forever about PC ports at the moment, and obviously this month has not been a good month for PC ports. When we look at Jedi Survivor that released, when we look at Redfall that released, and the performance issues and the frame rate issues and the bugs and the crashes, that is a big problem. So I think people are becoming more reticent to buy games at release on PC, right? So Game Pass is a way of going, okay, I'm going to check it out and see if it is frigging god awful or if it does work and run smoothly. And then if it does, then they might choose then to pick it up and purchase it, whether that's on Game Pass or whether that's on PC. Of course, on Steam. Of course, obviously on Game Pass, I think if you are a Game Pass member, you get a discount, I think, to purchase it, obviously, on the Xbox store. So yeah, I get I do actually think it's a good point what you're saying. It would be, I want it to happen because as a consumer, it's great for me because obviously it gives me more options and I have more games that I can play. Means I'm even less likely to get through my backlog on Steam.
No, if they don't get Steam, then they're going to bring out the XBP.
XBP, oh god, I'm going to name it an
Xbox.
Awful name. Xbox Series P for Portal or something. Portable or something.
Yeah, and it's going to run like a Hoover.
Yeah. The other thing, obviously, this month that hasn't been great for Xbox was the release of Redfall, which has been really a nightmare. This clearly for Xbox was supposed to be one of their big tentpole AAA exclusive. It was their first exclusive title to come from Bethesda, to come from Arcane Austin, which are a development studio known for making quality immersive sims. You know, obviously they're the team that made Dishonored, the team that made Prey. They are known for quality. So I think it took everybody by surprise. Well, not so much. I was a little bit reticent and nervous about the game anyway when I saw the trailers and everything, but I don't think people expected
it to be so much of a dumpster fire.
Yeah, basically. And not good, not only in terms of the bugs and the glitches and the performance issues, and also the fact, you know, on console they can't even to get it to run more than 30 frames per second on an Xbox Series X, which is a powerful piece of kit, and it's supposed to be one of the selling points of the Xbox Series X, that beast can run certain games at 125 frames per second. That is the selling point. 60 frames is supposed to be as standard, man. Like honestly, no performance mode available at release, and then obviously all of the bugs and the glitches. We played about 2 hours of the game, didn't we? Just because we wanted to check it out.
Force mission.
Yes, we downloaded it on Game Pass, and it's very much trying. In a way, it feels like it's trying to be a little bit like sort of Borderlands, but more open world. You've got obviously your 4 classes, and I will say that the abilities are interesting. I kind of enjoyed them, and the way that you can actually synergize with your partner. But the we haven't played enough to make a judgment on the game structure, but from what I hear, it's not amazing, and it's
I think
pretty
from what I've read
cookie
is that
cutter
it's
by
just,
the book.
It's just generic. It doesn't do anything interesting that hasn't already been done before and better by other people.
And it's scored like 54, I think, is the average on Metacritic at the moment, which is really bad.
Once again,
for an Arcane game.
Another casualty of something that has been oversold, overhyped. It has been rushed out to meet a deadline by officers, people behind a desk. So the developers are probably just burnt themselves out to get this thing out. It's another Cyberpunk in that sense, where it's just gone, this is the deadline, you've got to make it. This game is launching whether you like it or not, whether it's good enough or not. There's been no thought gone into it. There's been no real heart in it. It's just it's exactly what it is. It's a flagship. It's a Titanic style, hey look, here's something that we've made, look how amazing it's going to be, and then it goes and sinks because there's a fatal flaw in its design and nobody bothered to actually look at it. And the sheer God, what's the word I'm looking for, the sheer hubris of it has just basically been its downfall, and we are going to continue to get games that are like this because it's what businesses think we want. And what's worse, people are pre-ordering it, people are buying it, so they think they can get away with it, because they do get away with it time and time and time again. We as consumers in the gaming industry need to stop pre-ordering stuff, simply put, because it's giving them the excuse, go, oh well, people have already bought it effectively, so you know, we've already got our money, just give it to them regardless of what state it's in. Games need to stop being sold on hype, and they need to start being sold by word of mouth when people have played it. People play it and go, this is a really good game, I'm going to tell my friends, rather than people being sold a game before it's even been played by anyone, including before critics are being given, you know, advanced copies to review. We seriously, as gaming consumers, need to stop pre-ordering stuff.
I'm also dead curious if anyone bought like the £100 deluxe version.
Oh god, well some people did, clearly.
Why?
Some people will have done. Quite a few people were excited for Redfall. One of my friends, like who I play Destiny with, was excited for Redfall. She got an Xbox Series S specifically for Starfield, I think, and Redfall, because she is a massive like Bethesda fan, huge fan of Arcane Austin. So, you know, when you hear Arcane Austin are making a game for the Xbox, you think it's going to be quality. You know, you expect quality. And obviously, I've spoken to her about it recently, and she is so disappointed. And now she's going, I've bought this console for this game that I don't want to play, based on what people have said. And obviously she is desperately hoping, you know, that Starfield is going to live up to expectations. What I'd like to do, obviously, because we could keep talking about this, you know, ad nauseum, but what I'd like to do is actually have a look at the interview with Phil Spencer and obviously his reactions, his thoughts, and maybe then we could talk about some of them, if that's okay, because I know a lot of people will be interested on our take on the interview and what we thought of it.
Phil, of course, Redfall has released from Arcane Austin, and it's been a tough release week for that, coming out to low reviews and a lot of disappointment from many fans. Can you talk about that? What is your thoughts right now as we head into the first week of this game being out?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. I'll hit Redfall, but I'll just say all up. You know, there's nothing that's more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community. I've been a part of it for a long time. I obviously work on Xbox, head of the business, have a lot of friends, get a lot of feedback. And just to kind of watch the community lose confidence, be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with myself. I kind of revisit our process. You know, I think back to the announcement of 60 frames per second, and then we weren't shipping 60 frames per second. That was kind of our punch in the chin, rightfully, a couple weeks ago. And then seeing the game come out and the critical response was not what we wanted. And it's disappointing. And so kind of pick myself up. What can we learn? How can we get better? One thing I'll fight is kind of what went wrong. There's clearly quality and execution things that we can do. But one thing I won't do is push against creative aspirations of our teams. Then a lot of people will say, hey, you've got teams know how to do one kind of game. Just force them to go do the one kind of game that they have a proven track record for. And I'm just not a believer in that. Maybe that means I'll under-deliver for some of our fans out there. But when a team like Rare wants to do Sea of Thieves, when a team like Obsidian wants to do Grounded, when Tango wants to go do Hi-Fi, when everybody probably thought they were doing Evil Within 3, I want to give the teams the creative platform to go and push their ability, push their aspirations. But I also need to have a great selection of games that are continue to come that surprise and delight our fans. And we under-delivered on that. And for that, I apologize. It's not what I expect, not what I want. But, you know, it's ours to deliver.
So, general thoughts on that? I have to give props, like, to Phil to come onto this, you know, podcast, given the week that he would have had and all the bad PR and everything else involved. You've got to give him props, like, to come on, you know, to this podcast and obviously take those questions. Like, I thought it was kind of interesting, and he did seem genuinely disappointed, obviously, understandably, in its performance. It's kind of interesting what he was saying. Some things I agree with him on. Like, obviously, I do wholeheartedly agree with giving developers the chance to develop something completely out of what they would usually do. That has led to some great games, right? Like Guerrilla Games with Horizon, you know, Zero Dawn. Insomniac with Spider-Man. Like, there's so many, you know, and even on Xbox, like recently, I think Tango did Hi-Fi Rush, which was fantastic. Obsidian did Pentiment, which was so left field and like nothing they'd done before. So sometimes that can breed creativity and innovation. I'm all for that. But what are your thoughts on what he was saying? Anything that you disagree with?
I think the key thing from all of this is you're right, and he's right when he says, when Rare wants to make Sea of Thieves, give them key to do so. And with any developer, when they want to try something new, absolutely support them. My question with something like Redfall is, did the developers want to make that game? Or was this a design by committee again, where somebody's like, you're going to make a game, it's going to be this? And is the reason that these games aren't coming out the way that people want them to, or because of what they're being sold, is it because the developers, their hearts aren't in it? They're just being put on a factory line, say, we've got an idea for a game that 3 people have an interest in. It's not a team effort. 3 people have got an idea for a game, which is taken to developers, and they're told, you're going to make this. You look at Rare's history when they've got things like Banjo-Kazooie on the N64. Rare had a history of everyone in the office was involved in it. Everyone had something to bring to it. All the characters in these games were named after, people in the office who worked on things. Or, there were references to the development team. How many people in Redfall working on that game genuinely had a personal investment in it, and how many people were just basically there to earn a living?
And that's the question.
That, I think, is the key game. That I think is the difference. Who in this development studio wants to make these games?
But we don't know that. We're making that assumption because of the game that's developed. There's a lot that we don't know. I mean, you're right. I mean, I think a lot of games now, a lot of publishers like Bethesda, they do step in. They do develop games based on trends, based on committees. I think you're right. I think that does happen a lot. And I think that comes across in a finished product, because you can feel that it lacks that passion. When a game is made by a team that love it, that are passionate about it, because you can see the care and the attention to detail. But certainly, yes, you can feel when the core is not true. You can feel that. I felt the same with Anthem when I played Anthem, and that didn't feel like a BioWare game. It didn't feel like it had been developed by BioWare. It didn't have any of the heart that their previous games have had. And obviously I haven't played enough of Redfall to make that decision, and I will hand on heart say I haven't played Dishonor, I haven't played Prey, so I have nothing to compare it to. I have nothing to compare what the level of quality that they usually bring for that studio. So for me, it's hard to make that judgment because obviously I haven't played those games. But one of them, I won't show the video on it, but there was an interesting point that Phil brought later on in the interview when he talked about at what point Microsoft acquired Bethesda and acquired all of the studios. And I think he said at the point that they acquired Arcane Austin were already very deep in development. And what he said was that they failed in a way because they should have really stepped in sooner, and they should have maybe had more of a hands-on approach, or provided more support and more networks and things to help support them, which they did do apparently with Starfield, which he says is in a much better state, but he's gonna say that, right? Of course, because he wants that game to sell. We're building this other
crock of shit. Come, line up for it.
Obviously, he's gonna say that. So, who was behind the creative vision behind Redfall? I don't think the blame necessarily lies on Microsoft, although they will take responsibility because it is now a first-party game. It's under their umbrella, so they should take responsibility. And it sounds like Phil's doing that and sort of saying, at the end of the day, we should have stepped in sooner. We should, our process is not working. Obviously, if we didn't pick up the fact that, there were these issues. So that's interesting. But that tells me, I mean, you look at Bethesda, like I said, Bethesda has had quite a record of some really poor decisions when it's come to some of their games that have come out. I mean, look at Fallout 76, absolutely awful. Look at Wolfenstein Youngblood. I stopped playing that game because it made me angry. Like, the writing in that game was awful, just butchered. butchered the last two games and the level of quality that they had. Their last subsequent, apart from maybe the Death Loop that they made for PlayStation, which was kind of cool and was a really cool concept and was actually quite interesting and did very well. Bethesda, up until that point, had a track record of not really hitting their target, right? And not really, achieving their potential. So does I don't want to put blame, but is it a Bethesda by corporate meeting? Is that what's happened here? Bethesda's gone, we need an online shooter, we need an online shooter. They're big, they make lots of money, like we need that. Who knows? We don't know, obviously.
I think that's the question. Is again that's a rabbit hole you could chase, and without
we don't know. And you can imagine that Jason Schreier's probably hard at work emailing his contacts and trying to find some people working at Arcane Austin that are maybe willing to speak off the record or on the record regarding what happened.
That's why
somewhere will be desperately trying to put out some fires.
Yes.
Yeah, we found out the story behind why Anthem was so bad and why Cyberpunk shipped like it did, because we got those details back then, but at the moment we don't know
anything, so it's all speculation
about other little cogs and wheels turning elsewhere of who's to blame, why things get rushed out, and what exactly is happening.
I think the other question that they asked with the interview was, should the game have been delayed? Knowing
when it's a buggy mess, yes. Whether, basically.
Yeah.
Especially if they're all like the frames per second thing alone is like, if it ends up clipping and tearing and everything, if you get game-breaking bugs, crashes, all this and that, it should never be shipped in that kind of state. You're supposed to give a quality product.
And it's interesting as well. One of the things that I think is causing issues in the gaming industry at the moment is that the lack of respect and the lack of recruitment for quality assurance testers. Right?
I'll patch it later. No!
That seems to be something that, they always seem to be the first ones that are laid off. They work ridiculous hours. They're underpaid. They're understaffed. They're undervalued. And it is one of the most important elements of any game is quality testing and getting people to play that game and to play whole segments of it and look for bugs and report on those bugs. And I think what's happening is maybe quality assurance teams are understaffed. So not enough people are playing it.
Or
non-existent. And obviously there is a certain thing to say when a game releases, it is being played by more people than it will ever have been played in its entire development cycle. You might hire 50 or 100 quality assurance game testers, but there is only so much of the game that they can play, as opposed to say 1 million people that might buy the game or 500,000 people that might buy the game and play it.
But again, to go back to a game that had similar issues last year, The Ascent, when that launched, every single one of us that was playing it had game-breaking issues. It wasn't just a handful of people. It was every single one of us found problems with it off the bat. So you've got to think how many of those issues are found and are just thought, as Dante just said, we'll patch it later. Just get it out. We'll patch it later. And I hazard a guess that even if they did have the QA testers, the bugs would be raised, but they wouldn't be worked on.
Yeah, or maybe they didn't have enough time to work.
They'd be added to a added to a backlog to be fixed at a later date. And that's, again, I think the problem is this constant rush to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
Developers have gone out of practice. Gone are the days of cartridge releases like even the Game Boy Advance, N64. When was the last true cartridge console that didn't have an internet connection? It will have been the N64, right?
I guess, yeah.
And, and the disc-based ones, PlayStation 2 didn't have patches. So yeah, basically the GameCube, PS2 era, even in discs, that format, you release that game, There's no option
It's
to patch
final.
it. That's going out. That's what it is. Since the constant connection of online for consoles, hey, we can throw a patch down it later, is what I feel fosters this belief that it's fine to just release a game that's half made
and then patch it later.
And we'll patch it later because you've got to get the money in.
Obviously, I haven't showed the video because I was going to show the video of him talking about the delaying it and whether, you know, the difference between delaying it to fix bugs and performance issues and delaying a game that at its core has problems in terms of its game design and meeting its core elements. And I think, you know, obviously he was saying in that if the game at its core it is not working, doesn't matter how much you delay that game, even when you release it, it isn't going to meet expectations, you know, because you're not meeting the, you know, it's like the concern that people have now about the new Suicide Squad, right? The core design of that game, you know, the games as a service design and all of the little shooter elements and shoot the purple things and everything, you know, that's built at core, that takes years of programming and development. And you might have spent 5 years, you know, on this game. Are you just going to throw all of that out and start again? Or do you release it as it is and you take that hit on the chin and maybe you then try and improve the game as you go along, or if you get a sequel, you try and improve on it then? What is your view on his opinion on that?
I think the only view I can say is look at Metroid Prime 4. They took that right back to square one. We're still waiting on it. That was a game that was announced years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
And Nintendo just decided whatever's going on with this game, it's not up to our standards. We're scrapping it. We're starting right from square one. And that's all you can do. If that's something that it has your name on it as a production company,
that's going to stick with you. You want it to be quality.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's all down
Yeah.
to how much you value your own reputation and how much you respect your customer base.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, back to the original point. We're just wallets with legs to a lot of these game developers these days. Yeah, all right, Nintendo also likes the money. Of course they do. But they still put in the effort to make sure if they're selling something that it's actually good.
If it's first party, of course.
Yeah, if it's first party.
If it's first party. I get what you're saying.
If it's first party, in-house, it has their name on it, they're going out.
Yeah, I 100% do get what you're saying, because obviously, I mean, his view is very much the view of a CEO, right? Someone that has to justify his decisions to his stakeholders and his shareholders. And we've already invested so many millions into this game, and everything's about risk and reward and profit margins, right, for him. So his view is probably very different than, say, a consumer's view. For me, yeah, I agree. If the game is broken at its core, you need to maybe go back to relook at your original concepts, or go back to the drawing board. And certainly I would say that I feel that Microsoft could afford to do that. I mean, it more than any of the big three, more than Nintendo, more than Sony.
Especially more so if they stopped wasting money on buying
acquisitions, like Activision
that they
Blizzard.
Don't need to buy.
But they can afford to. You know, Microsoft in this last fiscal quarter, I think it had profit margins of something crazy like $18.6 billion. So you know they have revenue that they can put, you know, into these studios to support them. You know, that should be one of the things that they are capable of doing, and sort of, you know, making that hard decision. If it is broken at its core, start again. You know, I mean, it'll be heartbreaking for the developers probably that have put hours and hours into this and making it, but that is, I guess, is part of iteration, and that is part of video game development. You know, it kind of comes with the territory, but I think that first core vision is so important in any game, and having a core vision for your game is crucial. So many games now don't know what they are, or they try to be everything, they try to be too much, and they don't have a cohesive vision, and that's where I think a lot of modern AAA games go wrong. They don't have that core heart to them. And definitely Redfall feels like that. You're exactly right. It feels like a game that is developed by corporation. It's corporate decisions. It's development by numbers and by statistics and by patterns. And that is how it feels, by trend. And that's probably why at its heart it feels kind of hollow. It feels soulless. That's a horrible thing to say, but it does feel like that, which is hilarious because it's a game full of vampires which have no souls and whatever. Obviously the next video I would like to show is probably the biggest thing that has caused controversy and has kind of split the Xbox community, which was Phil talking about obviously Xbox's vision and his views towards supporting the consoles and where it's going. So I'd like to show that, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on that and also the future of Xbox, and then probably finish there and then move on to the community questions.
You see a lot of conversation, of course. I want to praise you and the team for really elevating the PC side of this Xbox ecosystem. I think we've seen a lot of great strides in that. But when you see the community talk about the console side of things, do you think you've lost the focus or maybe put too much onto the PC side? Do you think that the console is still getting the console love that it deserves? Do you think you guys have lost that focus, or is it still there? And can we see more love on that side?
I will say, this might be disruptive as well. We have a different vision. Paris talked about this. It's play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want. We want Xbox to be something that people who buy our console can feel like they're a member of, obviously, who are playing on PC, who are playing on cloud, that they feel like they're full members of our ecosystem. Game Pass players can play on many different devices, and we remain fully committed to that. We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there. Like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs and every new generation was a clean slate and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. And I'm just going to say, like, there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud, and the way we build our games.
Okay, so that for me was the most interesting part of the interview.
It made me shake my head a lot.
Did it? I think I was. I mean, we all know that Xbox are not doing great, in terms of console sales. We know that they're third place, right? But I wasn't expecting him to admit that, right? To admit the fact that they think they're losing, I don't like the whole console war. I think it's a stupid idea. I think it's a dumb idea.
It's so glaringly obvious that you can't help Well, not help.
Yeah, but be candid.
Denying it makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah, when it is so staggeringly out of balance, you can't deny it.
I think it was
otherwise
interesting.
you end up looking like Trump. But
true that. You look like a politician, don't you, where you're trying to just like cover things. I think it was interesting, and he raises some good points, to be fair, and it does shed a lot of light into why Xbox are pushing so much of their future, through Game Pass, through cloud gaming, and that's this whole digital library that people have built up. And he's 100% right. People are part of an ecosystem now, and that's fair. I got a PlayStation 4, and much of my digital library I can carry over, into my PlayStation 5, and obviously, generally speaking, people predominantly are part. Although I do think a lot of people now do own multiple consoles.
I do want to actually torpedo that, because that's the one point he said which I don't agree with.
Really?
Regardless of, I understand it.
Yeah.
I completely understand the logic of, yes, my digital libraries with this, but if that was the case, then Nintendo would be nowhere near what they're doing. Nintendo are terrible at carrying their digital library over from console to console.
Very true.
It's their one huge failing point. Nintendo cannot get that right, and yet it doesn't stop people buying Nintendo consoles. His point of, if we made good games or better games, then more people would come, then that's not necessarily true. Case in point, look at Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And I take this back to the point we've discussed earlier. What's hurting Xbox is the fact that their good games aren't exclusive to the console. They're just not. And there is no incentive for anyone to buy an Xbox other than, hey, look, you can hook it up to the TV and you don't have to have all that pesky nonsense of an operating system with Microsoft Word and everything else and all that. It's a case of plug it in, turn it on, and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for the people who really, really want to play games these days, especially with streaming becoming such a big thing, you can't run Twitch directly through your Xbox. You've got, you can probably.
You can stream to Twitch.
You can stream,
you
but
can stream to YouTube.
What I mean is, you can do so much more streaming through your PC than you can do streaming through your console.
You can stream at a better quality, but that isn't. Majority of people won't ever want to do that, on their console. Majority of people will. It is a gaming platform for them. I think obviously I do 100% agree that games matter. Exclusive games matter. I think the issue that Microsoft have is obviously they are trying to support both the console and the PC, so their games are available on both. And of course, you will always, if you have a PC, you're going to play it on PC. The PC is going to be able to probably play it. Like, people will have got Redfall, even though it's a crap game, but people will have got Redfall on PC, because on PC you could play it at 60 frames per second, mostly. It is more powerful tech, therefore, you're going to be able to play it, a better version of it. It's interesting as well, because obviously Nintendo and PlayStation are still very much following the pattern of exclusive games. You can only play these on our platforms, on our console, to obviously drive sales, and it is working. What's interesting with PlayStation is they are now moving into the PC market as well, although a lot of their exclusive titles are now seem to be a timed exclusive on their console for a year or two, and then it seems to be inevitably then that it will become available on PC, which then leads to a second boost of sales, which I think is really clever.
They need that time to compile it, so it's not a buggy mess.
I mean, obviously what I will say is Last of Us Part 1 was shocking, should never have been released in the state that it is in. However, I will say that Sony PC ports up until that point had actually been very good. Up until that point. Obviously, God knows what went wrong there. But yeah, there isn't anything on Xbox that is a console seller. There isn't anything, and there isn't anything that makes you go, right, I want to subscribe yes, you might subscribe to Game Pass because it's great value for money. You're gaining access to a library of games. It might give you, it might encourage you to play games that you maybe wouldn't have considered playing before because you've got access to them. Like, I think Game Pass is a fantastic thing for, say, indie developers and indie games getting out there. You look at some incredible success stories with Tunic, with Pentiment, with Hi-Fi Rush. The player base that's playing these games is much higher because it's on Game Pass, but it is lacking in those big blockbuster titles that Nintendo are well known for and Sony are well known for. And unfortunately for the common average Joe, it is the big blockbuster titles that make people, want to
go out and buy a console
and make it worth their money.
Which is why I don't understand why he said that. Like, he goes on about like losing the generation at the time of the Xbox One. It was like, I had a 360, all good games on there, brilliant. It's like, oh, what's next? TV is what's next. It's like, yeah, but what about the games? Oh, no games. It's like, well, that's why you lost.
Yeah.
Right there and there.
That's why you lost.
I had a huge catalog of games on my 360,
yeah.
And the reason I didn't buy the Xbox One is because I was like, well, if I do, I can't take half of my catalog with it.
Yeah, you make the quality games. You then push the console, and their latest exclusives like the Halo and all that have just underperformed
massively. They've been feature incomplete. Yeah, Halo Infinite was disgusting in the way that it released without key features. The multiplayer was just so dodgy in terms of the microtransactions and the customization, and again, not having Forge, not having so many things. Gears 5 was good, but I wouldn't have classed that as a console seller. Obviously, Forza still does well. It still performs well. But a lot of the very good recent games that actually have been very good games, like Psychonauts 2, right? Like Hi-Fi Rush. I would not class those as console sellers. And I think the problem is because there is such a lack of consistency with Microsoft's releases in terms of great games but also really awful games. That's a problem for them, because when you look at Nintendo, right, and you look at Nintendo's first party games and you decide to put down your money and buy a Nintendo Switch, you know that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a fantastic experience.
And I would even go as far as to have another torpedo for that exact same argument in the case of, look at the Wii U. How many games that they release on the Wii U, which are now being ported to the Switch, that people are buying a second time? That's not to say that, yes, there's a large number of the sales on the Switch games because people didn't buy a Wii U in the first place, but if they released Wind Waker HD on the Switch, doesn't matter that I own it on the Wii U. I'd go out and buy it again. If they released Twilight Princess on the Twilight HD Princess on the Switch, I'd go out and buy it. And it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is for me, the console, the ability, and the way to play a game. And I think yes, there's a large part about it. Yes, the game has to be a good game as well, but it's equally as important, as he said, that we're playing it the way we want to play it. And the sad fact of the matter is, back to that core point, people will prefer to play it on a PC. I don't think that there isn't a market for console gaming at all. I absolutely agree that there is. I'm just saying that's Xbox's problem.
They've gone too much into the PC market.
Well, again, there is no reason to buy an Xbox
because you can play it on PC.
Because that is their market.
Yeah.
Their market isn't console gamers like PlayStation, like Nintendo.
Yeah.
Their market is, hey, we want people who can play everything on everything.
Right.
And when you have that mindset, you're going to pick a PC. Because I think they already said when the this generation of Xbox launched, their open statement was they knew that they were not going to be the primary choice of a one console household. They were going to be part of a household that would own an Xbox and a Switch, or an Xbox and a PlayStation. They even openly stated that was where they were marketing themselves at. So if it's people who've got that freedom of income and that freedom of choice, they're going to get a PC.
Yeah.
They've sold themselves to a market which doesn't really want a console. They want a gaming PC. It's not to say there isn't a need for it or a desire for it, but the market they have targeted is the one given a choice. Do you want a console or a PC? They'll pick the PC.
I think they do still, like we said, lack those key titles, and obviously we know that Xbox have relied heavily on Halo, on Gears, on Forza repeatedly, right? And I think what they and hopefully, you know, they're still saying, you know, there are great games ahead, there are new IPs ahead, we've purchased all these studios, they're working on things, but we've yet to see that culmination. And I think where Nintendo and Sony have done great is not only have you got your iconic existing IPs like Mario, like Zelda, you know, like God of War, you know, and things like that, like Last of Us and Uncharted. But you also have these new IPs that are becoming iconic with those brands that are also fantastic. You know, Splatoon 3, right? Like, is great. We got a new Metroid game, which was awesome, right? Like Metroid Dread. Obviously, Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, and there's Ghost of Tsushima, Returnal, you know, some great iconic IPs. And Microsoft just doesn't have that. It just doesn't have that. And that, for me, is a problem, because if they continue to not provide that, and people do want that, are people going to start unsubscribing from Game Pass or not, because they're not offering? You know, there isn't there might be some games, but is it enough for you to continue to pay that subscription monthly, annually, or will you get bored of what's on there and there's nothing to keep you subscribing to it? Like my friend, for example, like she owns a Nintendo an Xbox Series S, but has not subscribed to Xbox Game Pass because there isn't anything on there that she really wants to play.
And on the topic of
until Starfield,
and on the topic of subscription services with things like that,
you got to keep people interested.
Put it back to the concept. With things like the cost of living crisis, if it's the choice between spending £10 a month over the course of 12 months, which is 120 quid a year, or you have one game which is going to cost you, you know, £50, which you know is going to occupy your time, you know, for the vast majority of 9 months of the year, with a couple of indie titles spattered in between it. It's like, do you really need access to a streaming service full of games, most of which you might not even play, even when you've got one big heavy hitter, which is like, you know, and again, maybe it's unique to the people like myself who don't have the time to play every game that ever hits the market. So what you want is one big heavy hitter to occupy the majority of your time, and a couple of nice little indie games that are pick up and put down. So that's it. And yes, all right, Game Pass offers you that. It gives you that. But when it's a cost of, you know, over the course of a year, I'm paying for a huge catalogue of games with a streaming service that I'm never going to get around to playing the vast majority of what's on there. I'm going to cherry pick one or two that I can. Or I watch my budget. I can spend maybe 75-60% of the annual cost of that on some games that are genuinely going to fill my time just as much.
That you know are good.
That I know will have plenty of replay value.
Yeah, I think people have got different. Obviously, everybody has different times, different life commitments, different things. For me as a content creator, of course, Game Pass is a great thing because it will allow me to play The Last Case of Benedict Fox, right? And be able to check that out and maybe talk about it and maybe promote it on my channel, because I might not be able to afford to put down £20 on that game or £25 or £30 in case it is disappointing. And that's a waste of funding, you know, for the channel. So it does give me more freedom and options, but I do think that it does lack, you know, those first party games, that that I still think it needs those as well. What's your take on this, Dante, just to round us out? Because you haven't said that much. You've said a few things.
That's because you guys are mostly covered.
I know. I want to give you a chance to give your review and opinion, because I don't want you to feel neglected. So
I know. I said this would happen because we've been discussing this for the last couple of days. We did. And it's like you're gonna end up saying half of the stuff I'm saying right now anyway. So it's gone. But just then for Game Pass sake, then in my own opinion, I'm still subscribed to Game Pass. Have I actually played anything since Guardians of the Galaxy back yonder? No, not at all. I've downloaded a few because I've heard they're really good, like Death's Door, for example, but I haven't got around to it. I've then noticed it on sale on the Switch. So I'm like, sod it, I'll buy it on there because by the time I get round to it on Xbox Pass, it will be gone.
Yep.
So I might as well get it when it's on the cheap on here. But I feel like I'm not getting as much out of my Game Pass as I should do. And a part of it again is I'm stuck on the PC, but because they're available in other ways, I can get them that way. Whereas there's just no point for an Xbox console, and I think that's what's come round again. Is why they've lost this gen, as you were saying. It's because they just haven't got the heavy hitting games on their console. So that's why it doesn't sell. But Microsoft's mentality have always been trying to spread out in the living room. There's always has been back in the 360 days.
Which is interesting.
It's
so
we want to be your DVD player. We want to be your TV. We want to be your this and that and internet connection, blah, blah, blah. And so the more diluted they are across that, and they're still doing it now, so they haven't been properly focusing on that Xbox One.
They've got many irons spread out. They're even going into TVs now and partnering with, is it Samsung or Panasonic, where certain TVs will have the Xbox game, like the Game Pass, like the app, and you can stream games through your TV. So they're even moving into that kind of technology.
Intriguing.
Yes. So that's that. So they're definitely, I think that is the way that they're going to try and go. I honestly do. Even though he says, yes, our console community is important to us and we're going to support it, I do think they're moving away from that. I do think they're moving into other areas.
Go down an app room.
And I do agree in a way that they've got to do something different because absolutely they cannot compete with Nintendo, with Sony. I just don't think they can. So obviously they need to look at different avenues, and that's what they're clearly doing. But the games do still matter. They are still important, especially to the gaming community. And I do feel bad if you are an Xbox console owner. You've got to be frustrated by now, and it's the same thing again and again. You've got to be worried about Starfield.
You say compete with Nintendo. I think Nintendo for years.
Well, Nintendo don't compete with anyone. They just do their own thing.
Nintendo is a wild card in this situation. They're not competing. If they do better, great.
They're in Japan doing their own thing. They don't care. They don't give a shit about the West. Whatever. I don't care. Yeah, and it works for them. It works for them, right? And
guaranteed, the next Nintendo console will more likely be a train wreck because they'll do something completely out of left field that everyone will think, "What the hell's going on here?" And then they'll refine it, and the next one after that will be even better.
So
Virtual Boy's coming back, boys.
Oh my God, Jesus! Well, VR, that's the next thing. So let's end that there, because it was quite a lengthy segment. I hope you guys obviously enjoyed the discussion and the conversation regarding Microsoft. It is a juicy topic. There is lots to delve into. Please do share your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Phil Spencer's response? What we talked about? Are there any points that you would like to make or any opinions that you have? Do share those in the comment section below. Share them in the comments below. Please do. We would look forward to reading those and maybe getting a discussion going. So let's move on to the third part of the podcast, which is community questions.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
What do you want to know?
Tell us now.
So let's go through these, and we'll try and get through these questions as breezy as we can do.
It's been a long podcast.
It has. I was like, it'll be a short one. Nah, no way will it be. I should have known that wasn't going to happen.
I was like, you want to add clips? No chance.
No chance. What are you talking about, Kay? You're crazy. So let's start off with question 1. I wrote down the people that asked these questions. I'm getting better. So this question was asked by Stylish Red, and Stylish Red asks, it's a great question, if you have to choose between 3 games that you would play exclusively for all your life, what would they be? Now, because Dante has not done as much talking in this podcast, I would like him to start first. Go ahead.
Okay. So if I'm stuck with just 3, they need replay value or multiple ways of playing them or challenging myself with them. First one straight came to mind was Advance Wars Dual Strike that was on the 3DS. Third game in the Advance Wars series. It has got a bigger, unique campaign and pretty much all of the War Room content from the first 2 games on top of several other extras. And like last counted, I got 286 hours into that.
Jesus.
Yeah, I was still missing 52 of the 300 achievement medals.
Oh my god.
And then you could just keep on going, like S ranking every map, but then there's separate scoreboards for the dual screen mode
Sounds
that
like
you
a
play
job.
on, whether you're playing 1 CO or tag battling with 2, and then you've got with and without the additional unlockable skills. You got like just tons of content, the map editor, plus ability to play with friends on just 1 cartridge. So it's like, yes, that is definitely one of my games, because I could just play that passively or for like long periods of time. It's just great. Second title, I haven't even completed the game, but I already know it's going to be Tears of the Kingdom. Legend of Zelda. I would have said Breath of the Wild, but its sequel is already looking like it's even bigger and packed with even more stuff to do.
And better.
I could just happily comb every square inch to find all the secrets, the loot, the quests. It's the only way I'd end up getting every Korak seed. It's like, okay, but this is my only game I've got to play into the end of time. I'm gonna 100% this. And that's hundreds of hours just there. And like, if we've got, whether it's in the base game because I haven't completed it, whether we got like the harder master mode to unlock, or if it comes in DLC later, then that's even better, because then I've got the whole game again, but like on stupid hard mode. And then other replays could be like, I'll do a naked run, I'll do a no additional hearts run, I'll do like, you know, just get really damn good at it like these other people on YouTube are and stuff. Because I'm like watching them going, how the hell, they must just play this game solid, and hopefully I'd gain that skill.
Get that speedrun achievement, see how fast you can beat the game in a speedrun. It be the first speedrun game you do.
But I struggled with this question, because then I didn't know if we were allowed, you know, like, are we allowed combination games, collections like the Command and Conquer combos?
I was going to ask the same question, so I'll let you start with that one first.
Or the Mass Effect collection, or the Mario All-Stars, for example, stuff like that. I didn't know, do I just play it safe, say Witcher 3, because that's a massive game? I could probably do something, but then... And then, yeah, online games, like Splatoon 3, I didn't want to super mention, because it's like, well, that relies heavily on being online. Same with, like, getting the most out of Mario Kart Deluxe.
So it might not be available years down the future, and then you've wasted a choice, is what you're saying.
It's like, am I allowed to upgrade, or is that not the rules? We don't know the rules, man.
Okay.
So I copped out and just said Monster Hunter World with Iceborne. I'm getting the DLCs in.
Yeah.
Because, but way better played with friends, so I'm hoping that my friends get a copy as well. Because although limited maps and monsters could get a bit repetitive over time, there were so many quests and targets to reach, and it's the only way I'd actually start building and using the other weapons in the game as well, because rather than just the one I've adapted to. So those are my 3 I'm going with.
Nice, very, very nice. All good choices. Fish?
My first one, very much along the lines with Dante and his, if compendium games are allowed, then I would say the Sonic Mega Collection on the DS. It's got your main Sonic games: Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles. All games I grew up with. Despite being a Nintendo person, the Sonic games are the ones that formed my early years of gaming.
Mine too, actually, yeah, because I had Sega Mega Drive.
Sonic's 1 to Knuckles, those games are all astounding. If you're going to pigeon box me and get rid of the compendium, I am going to insist that Sonic 3 and Knuckles plugged in together. Yes, they came on 2 separate carts, but they were always meant to be one game. They just couldn't fit it on a cartridge. So Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I would say, if I have to pick only one, it would be that. I have played that game more times than I care to count. And I will probably be playing it even when I'm an old man, assuming it's available, things I can play. That is a game I could return to time and time again and never get bored. Second game on the list would be Minecraft, purely because of its versatility. I'm going to assume that with its constant patches, this is just going to be a game. It's here to stay. It's going to keep going. Minecraft is not going anywhere. As a result of its basic freedom, with it always having new updates. I haven't played Minecraft in 2 years, and if I go back to it now, I'm sure there is so much more that has just been added in those 2 years. I find that's one of the nice things about Minecraft. I can play it, I can take a break from it for a couple of years, and when I come back, it'll be like a brand new game with so many more features. And because there is no real specific target in Minecraft, it's the whole, what do you want to do? Do you want to go find a dragon and slay it? Then go nuts. Do you want to just build nice little houses made of sand or glass? Go nuts. That nobody's telling you what to do. You just do what you want. And it's so chill. It's so relaxed. I like it. My third game would be Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver for the DS. Again, purely on the basis that it's a game I love. I've played it several times before. It's got a great story. It's a nice long format game. You can put a good 50 to 60 hours in a single play run. Sonic is one that I can pick up and put down as I go. You can play a couple of levels, put it down, 5-10 minutes here and there. Pokemon's something, if I'm sitting down, for it for a couple of hours. Maybe not as long as I would do with Minecraft, where I could sink in a full 12-hour shift if I was left to my own devices. But Pokemon, I can pick it up, I can play it, and again, it's a nice, good game for long journeys. It's absolutely one that, as Dante said about Monster Hunter, you've got that replayability with, these are the weapons I haven't used before. With Pokemon, here's a team I've never used before. I build teams out of Pokemon I don't traditionally use. There's tons of versatility, and again, assuming that other people still have access to the game, I can still play it with other people. So it's a nice multiplayer game. So those are my 3 choices.
Oh, good choices. Very good. For me, obviously I was like, oh God, I've played a lot of games. And I was trying to go through it and go, God, if I could only pick 3, how? But as everybody knows, I am a story-based gamer. I am an RPG nut. Whenever if I was to pick only 3 games I could ever play again, I would be picking them based on the experience of playing them, the replayability, replay value, characters, worlds. So my 2 biggest ones obviously would be, and yet I could have cheated on this and said the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, because that is the ultimate version of the trilogy. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cheap out. I'm going to pick one game, which is Mass Effect 2. Which is actually... me
thinking you'd say 3.
No, Mass Effect 2. God, no, I can't go through that ending multiple times. I've played Mass Effect 2 the most, and I have played it through so many times. And like you guys have said, it's a great world, great characters. Every time I play it, I get lost in the world, get lost in the stories. It still has an emotional impact on me, even though I've played it so many times. But because it's such a well-made RPG, there's so much replay value based on dialogue choices that you make, responses that you make to certain things, the companions that you take with you into certain levels and certain scenarios, that even though you might have played it 8, 9, 10 times, you might play it on the 11th time and still discover something new, something that you hadn't seen before. And I even had that, when I was live streaming the trilogy again. 2 for me was when they really did start to improve the combat significantly. Unless I was playing the Legendary Edition, then I can play Mass Effect 1's combat, but I ain't playing Mass Effect 1's combat at its core infinitely for the rest of my life. I can't bring myself to do that. Goddamn sniper rifles, no way. But also you've got the ability, the different multiple classes that you can play through, which gives you so much versatility in terms of approaching scenarios and approaching combat, and that might change the companions that you take with you. It's got great characters, great voice acting, great storytelling. One of the best end missions in any game that's been created. I love it. The suicide mission, the musical score. I could go on. I could just go on. So that probably would be my first one, Mass Effect 2.
Mm-hmm.
The second one would be The Witcher 3.
I did go for it. Yeah.
I can't say enough about how you guys know. I love that world. I love that lore. I've got the books. I've read the books. I've played all the games. I love Geralt of Rivia. He's awesome. I love the cast. I love the fact that it's so much darker and gritty than, say, Mass Effect. It's so different in tone. There's no clear right or wrong choice in anything that you make. Everything that you decide has repercussions that you don't foresee. There are so many different choices that you can make. So you could play this game again and again and again and again, discover new things, that you've never experienced before. And then obviously, it's just so good. The world, I could just lose myself in it and play it again and again. And obviously, it's a huge game. It's a massive game. And then on top of that, you've got the incredible DLC, which are virtually like games in and of themselves. I think Blood and Wine was something ridiculously stupid, like 60 hours to complete. It's like playing another game. Incredible. So, The Witcher 3, 100%. Hands down, would be the other experience. And then the other one I probably would pick, just because I love the game so much. I thought about Assassin's Creed 2 because I have a warm
Ezio.
For Ezio. But then I thought, I don't know if I could play that combat like infinitely for years, because that combat, when you look at a game in the passing, you've got rose tinted glasses, because you're looking at it through like the memory, haze of youth or whatever. So I decided and changed my mind, and I decided Batman Arkham City, because I loved that game.
That was a good one.
That
was loved it.
Potentially a contender for me as well.
Oh, I don't think there was a moment of that game I didn't just friggin' love from start to finish. It is a masterpiece, in my opinion. The writing, the world, even the mooks on the street and then chatting, like the way in which they divided up Gotham City between the different factions. The boss fights are absolutely incredible. They're so good. The voice acting, the writing, even the combat is fab. It feels incredible. Then you've got all the gadgets that go with that, and all the puzzle solving, all the detective. It's just a
trophies.
bloody brilliant game, and I could just play it again and again and again, and I know what would be coming, but I wouldn't get bored of it because it's just so friggin' good.
And you've got your challenge maps.
Yeah, and your Riddler trophies. Oh my god, do those again. But those Riddler trophies are great. But yeah, there's so much to do, and just everything is great. So those probably would be the 3 games like that I would play. Plenty of time to spend in those. So let's move on to the second question. This is from Jal Kont. I think I said that right. Okay, this is a good question. If we were in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, which 2 game characters would you want by your side? Non-superpowered, just normal human ones. Well, we're all going to agree on the first one.
All together now.
Leon S. Kennedy.
Leon Kennedy.
100% Leon S. Kennedy. You definitely want him on. When we were playing like Resident Evil 4 remake right now, and I'm like, dude, you want Leon S. Kennedy on your team?
Absolutely.
It's badass. That roundhouse kick, that's just enough. But then obviously everything else that he can do. He's just so cool under pressure. And his quips, his one-liners, he'd be entertaining all the time as your companion or whatever. It'd never
cool
be dull.
Sarcasm and
yes, and his skill with different weapons and stuff. So that's our first character, which we all agreed on together. It was a no-brainer, to be fair. Let's go around then. So, Fish, maybe you start. Who would be your second character?
I'm also going for somebody who's also quip-related, along with Leon, but also for the sheer ridiculousness of it, it's going to be Duke from Duke Nukem. I mean, absolutely. You've got one hand, you've got Leon, who's cool and suave, and you've got Duke, who's basically just Johnny Bravo with guns. And
do you think they get on?
No, but,
not at all.
I mean, if anything as well, due to his horribleness, whether or not it actually works, I mean, they always play it in the games that it does, but I'd like to believe that Duke isn't as much of a hit with the ladies as he likes to claim he is. So, if anything, if it's the end of the world and zombies have taken over everything, it's a zombie apocalypse, he may draw in potential people to your group as he's the eye candy, but then when they get to know him and go, like Johnny Bravo, actually you're a bit of an insufferable dick, I don't want to be around you. Then yeah, Duke, because he's going to crush some zombie heads and probably have a good laugh while you're doing it.
Nice. Okay. Funny choice. Who would your second one be, Dante?
I'm not going to do the cop-out answer of Jill Valentine, just a cop.
Right.
So my first thought would have been a doctor character, because who wouldn't want a medic? In that kind of scenario, you want a medic. But I couldn't think of a single non-powered medical character. Dr. Chakwaz seems a bit out of place.
Yeah, I can't imagine her.
The doctor's from Trauma Center.
I was going to say, does he count? Because it's not
because he's got the
power.
hand.
It's an instinct.
So I don't know. Maybe Styles. Get Dr. Styles.
Dr. Styles.
Maybe. I don't know. We'd have to look into what's powered and what isn't. So then I was just like, an all-round good hunter, protector, survivor would be Lara Croft. We've seen her in the reboot games. She knows how to look after herself and others.
Maybe Rise of the Tomb Raider, Lara.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
right.
not the original Tomb Raider reboot. That girl. Yeah.
A bit insane.
Yeah.
It just generally makes sense, because if you could picture yourself in that kind of scenario, it's like, she'd be a good teammate. But of course, comedy answer would just be Ellis from Left 4 Dead for the funnies, for the stories.
Oh,
Ellis.
Yes. Okay, good choice. For me, I at first I was like, okay, zombies. I thought, okay, Monster Hunter, someone who's really skilled, someone who is calm under pressure, someone who's just very prepared, very awesome. I thought Geralt of Rivia, 100%. He's a Witcher. He's a Monster Hunter. You'd be sliced.
Does he have powers though?
Well, that's why I was like, I'm not sure, because I thought, well, maybe because obviously he's mutated because he's a Witcher, so he has heightened senses. And he also does have powers like Ard and Igni. So I decided against Geralt, even though I'd like to have Geralt with me as a companion. That would be. Can you imagine Leon S. Kennedy on my left and Geralt of Rivia on my right? I would just let the boys go forward and just stand back and enjoy the show. That is literally what I would do. But I decided, okay, no, I won't go for Geralt. That's even though I really want Geralt because I love Geralt, but I won't go for him.
Monster Hunter was a good shout.
But also, yeah, probably one of the Monster Hunters. But like, would they speak English? Would I be able to communicate with them? I don't know.
I don't know. It depends if it's a Paul Anderson film or not.
Yes, exactly. The other one I did think actually, because I didn't actually go to Monster Hunter, but although that would be good, I kind of also went down the view of you, like Dante, which is obviously really tough, a survivor, great under pressure, like excellent combat skills. I would have gone for Samus Aran. She's not super powered.
She just has a super suit.
She just has a super suit. She's badass.
Whether she's got the suit or not.
Friggin' badass, especially in like Metroid Dread. Damn, man, some of those friggin' like.
If
boss
we're
fights.
allowing super suits, can I change my answer from Duke Nukem to Earthworm Jim?
Hell yeah!
He doesn't have superpowers. He's
Hell
just got
yeah!
a super suit.
Just, can you imagine? Can you imagine like Leon just grabbing him and like whipping him around like the head of his
Absolutely.
and just doing that? That'd be fucking badass. Yes,
Or
we
me
will
and
allow
Lara
it.
Croft drinking tea in the background.
Exactly.
We'll just leave him to it.
We'll leave him to it. I want to see that. That has to happen. Yes. Yes. I will allow that definitely. I fucking love Earthworm Jim. It's brilliant. Fabulous answers. Great choices. Okay, so so that's the end of our community questions. Thank you to everybody, obviously, who asks those questions every time. Please do make sure you do post any questions in the comment section if you do have them. Now is the time to ask, and we obviously will get around to answering those in future podcasts. So
I'd also
love
to hear their answers to these questions as well.
Who do you want on your team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Against
and what are your
zombie
3
apocalypse.
games that you're only able to play?
Great. Yeah.
Reminder
fantastic.
that the people from Left 4 Dead are all actually carriers of the zombie virus,
So
which
don't
is
you
why they're constantly moving on. So maybe not pick any of them.
Oh, that's a good point. Very good point. But yes, please do answer these questions in the comment section below, and we look forward to reading your responses. Of course, again, thank you so much for watching the podcast, listening to the podcast, wherever you may be. It's a bit of a lengthy one today because obviously we talked about Microsoft and there was lots to delve into. So thank you very much if you watched the whole podcast. Appreciate it because it's a pretty long one. But yeah, we'll be back again obviously next month in June with our next episode, so please do look forward to that. Thank you everybody again for supporting the channel. Make sure you do like the video if you did enjoy it, so you hit that notification bell so you do get notifications for when future content is released. But yeah, thank you so much for all your support, really appreciated. Take care everybody, and as always, happy gaming. Bye guys.
Jenny!
We should go. Bye.